Hi there, my name's Emily and in this video we're going to look at spinal injuries. Now there's a very basic rule to follow with any spinal injury, and that is do not move them and support the head. Now our spine houses our spinal cord, and our spinal cord is where the brain sends signals to the rest of the body. And if that spinal cord becomes damaged, it just can't be repaired. And the area where the spinal cord is damaged will affect how paralysed I would be. For example, if I get damage down the lower spine, then I'm going to probably lose the ability to use my legs. Whereas the higher up can result in a loss of control to my vital life support systems, such as my breathing system. Now, spinal injuries, you'll be thinking, how can I get one of those? Well, they can occur just from a low level fall, just from tripping over the carpet. Tends to be more in elderly that will happen. But it could occur if I get hit by a car when crossing the road, maybe I've fallen from a height such as a ladder, or children in the playgrounds on climbing frames, or maybe on a trampoline and someone jumps on my back, kind of compressing it. All these can cause spinal injuries or suspected spinal injuries. So as I said, the simple rule to remember for spinal injury management is if you suspect someone's hurt their back, tell them to keep still, do not move them, because there's always going to be a possibility they might have a spinal injury. So we always want to keep them as still as possible. Now, when dealing with a patient with a suspected spinal injury, as I first stated, the first person that's got to go and help them, our responsibility is to be able to support their head and also their neck. And our job is to keep it as still as possible without moving them, unless of course they're in danger. We'll come to that in a second. And we're going to leave their body in the exact position that we found them. And we're going to keep talking to them, we're going to keep reassuring them while supporting that head. Now, in many cases, it hopefully won't be a spinal injury, but we should always treat as the most serious just in case, and then we can prevent that damage from getting worse until the emergency services can help come and remove them safely. Now, as I said before, the only time we would have to move somebody who has a suspected spinal injury would be if they're in danger. For example, if they're in a burning car, we need to be able to remove them. We'd also need to be able to move them if the casualty's airway is compromised, as in they're going to be sick or there's loads of fluid in their mouth we need to be able to do something with, otherwise they're going to choke. We'd also need to move them onto their back in order to be able to perform CPR, especially if they're face down. Because obviously the airway, the breathing issues will be dealt with first. So if you do have to move a patient with a suspected spinal injury to perform CPR, as in to turn them from front to back, then you would use something called the log roll. And this is where the patient is moved over in a single motion, but it does require a few people to do so. So you've got somebody supporting the head and ideally two people turning the body over, all in line at the same time, trying to keep their head in line with their bodies. That's really, really important to do. You would also use a log roll as well if someone's on their back and there's lots of vomit in their mouth. You're going to have to turn them, or if they start to vomit, but you've got to do so slowly and carefully. And the person at the head tends to be the one that's going to be in charge of rolling them over. And this is where you need those good communication skills to be able to help you. As a first aider, remember, don't move someone if you suspect there might be a chance they have a spinal injury. Unless it's absolutely necessary, then leave the patient exactly where you found them, support their head and support their neck, and make sure you do call the emergency medical services so they can come and take over. But always keep reassuring the patient and keep them as calm as possible. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit subscribe. I'm here to give you lots of useful tips about first aid. I love teaching first aid. I've also produced lots of e-learning courses for you as adults, but also I've got lots of free children's first aid courses where I teach them important life-saving skills. And I'll leave a link in the description below for you so you have access to them.